right. Yep. And we're actually live now, so. All right. Let me close the door. All right, we got 3 people watching us already. All right, Craig, good to see you again. This is our first shot at doing a YouTube live, so hopefully we won't break the internet. How you been? All right, we got 3 people watching us already. All right, Craig. Yep. Yeah, I noticed that. Wow. So the whole idea of today's session was to talk about planning. You're a consummate planner. This is something we always enjoy talking about. So I thought first we do is let you talk a little bit about your plan from 2018 and how you did versus that. That's me. Looks like some folks are commenting here, and they're saying they don't get our sound. I'm hearing you fine. Yeah, I can. The delay, I'm not surprised at. Let's see where the comes. So I'll just keep going. So yeah, from my perspective, oh, now they can hear us. Great. Okay. So, I won't talk about my fiction pen name because that's just kind of playing around stuff. But from my nonfiction side, you had me come out to the conference a year ago, and my mind was blown. Right, like I wasn't expecting to talk to people that would tell me they're making $50,000 a month writing books, right? So I came out of that conference understanding the market better, and I set goals back then. So this is 2000, was that 2000? Yeah, 2017, yeah. So it was like, okay, I need to have some resources to help people that are just getting started, that are kind of on the upward trajectory but can't really afford a back office solution, and then there was a lot of people that were like, hey, I want to just hand this stuff off. So I did all that. I put all those things in place. And it took a lot of work and a lot of investment to get the website set up and do all that stuff to be ready really for this conference. And the results were, I came out of the conference with, I doubled my client base. And so it's been a really good year, and we're still talking with people and getting to the point where, we're closing on some of the deals. But, it's the point being is there was a clear plan that started execution, 365 days ago to get results today. So, let me break it into three segments. So for what we call our sole proprietor simplified, there isn't a whole lot that we're going to save them. We're just going to give them one spot to go get educated and answer all those questions, and then be able to, fill out that Schedule C Part 1 and Part 2 and get their business organized. When you go into that BizOps boot camp, by setting up the business structures that we have in place, you're immediately putting in place an LLC or a S Corp to reduce your risk and protect your assets and have a system for managing your intellectual property. But, we know just from the structure, you're going to save about 15% in taxes from the structure we put in place. So it covers anything you would pay in a fee. For the other program, it's really profound how we're helping these authors, because not only are we giving them back time to write and manage their business, but we're helping them structure some pretty significant projects. We've helped some people make a movie. We've helping people do non-book projects, and how we set those things up. In the case of something like a movie, we can go and find, in the state of New York, they'll give you 30% of your expenses back as a tax refund. So, it really depends on the project. And, the big story is we're changing how they're thinking about their business. It's really about them creating wealth. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, for me, like, the conference is such a great, it's hard work because I'm meeting with so many people, but everyone is so cool and so fun. I get just as much enjoyment of somebody that's just getting started than somebody that's, really been successful. So, and just some great stories, right? You always meet some characters there. If I'm invited, I will be there. Yep. Wow. Yeah, at least a room with a microphone and some air conditioning. I'll set my bar a little lower than the main stage. But sure, I'll work really hard. If you give me main stage time, I will work really hard. Yep. So this year I didn't have it nearly as bad because one thing I did is I went outside by the pool. Yeah. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about your planning for this upcoming year. I know you've got some ambitious goals. You're changing how you're doing business. So maybe we start with, wherever you want. What Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Before we kind of go into that whole working capital thing, what made you decide to um, go into this new kind of accelerated growth where you're kind of acting more as a publisher and show running this universe that you've been building. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And I think that that's what I've observed with some of the authors that are, working with me that are really starting to ratchet things up. What their specific project may be that they're into may be different. Like for you, it's kind of building this world and getting some other people writing with you. Worked with somebody that's just finished up a movie that they funded themselves. I know some other projects that I can't quite talk about right now that are pretty cool stuff. Um, is getting those opportunities to do that and being able to fund it. Um, that's great when you get to that level of success, but the same issue is for everybody, and that is understanding your working capital needs for those plans. And you mentioned before we hopped on that in 2018, one of the things that you bumped up against was capital constraints. Do you want to talk about that a bit? Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that. I was talking to somebody last night who helps authors with marketing, and she was talking about just having some patience and doing it right. That because of rapid release and just the urgency to try and make money, books you're pushing these books out, and you may make mistakes that you don't get the full value out of that. And it also made me think about when I talked to Michael Sullivan. He's basically sitting on 3 books at any time, and he's really kind of built a an interesting model with he's on a traditional publishing schedule because he distributes his own books into the traditional publishing, but his fans can get his books 9 months early when they buy on Kickstarter, right? So like he's got this ecosystem that he's built that works really well for him, and he knows like he can work at his pace. They understand that when the books are coming out, and he's really built himself a nice revenue machine. Um, mhm, 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 mhm. Well, I've talked to a couple authors, well, over 30 authors. I had one-on-ones at the 20 books. And one of the things that I kept mentioning to them is that, the industry is changing very fast, right? And where um, 18 months ago, it made business sense to get out there and start capturing customers with just getting stories out there. Now that doesn't really necessarily work, right? I mean, when you think about, I can think of 3 or 4 authors right now that are putting out at least a book a week, right? So you're not going to outproduce them. So what do you fall back on? And it's kind of what you see these other folks doing. What you're trying to do is you just have to get back to basics, and that is good story, and a brand promise to your customers that you're going to deliver on, book by book, chapter by chapter, word by word. Hmm. I saw that. Hmm. Wow. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Well, and I think to that point, I know there's a lot of people that are concerned with what's going on with advertising right now, and there's been a lot of changes. Um, it's got more expensive. It's going to get more expensive, but you know, what we have to remember is that the companies that are making all this money off of advertising. So we're talking about Facebook, Google, and Amazon. Um, they're they're investing enormous amounts of that money back into figuring out how to be even more poignant with their advertising, right? I was listening to a guy talking about the machine learning at Google that they're going to be applying to advertising, right? So they don't want to be just about AdWords. They want to know with all the data that they can see, whether it's from your phone or on YouTube, it's like, hey, Craig's washing machine is broken. Okay. They'd love to be able to figure out, maybe even from that washing machine, is it broken so bad that we should send them an ad to buy a new washing machine rather than an ad for a repairman, right? But that's stuff that's coming that as authors we'll have to help with that discoverability, right? Um, some of the stuff that I've been doing with direct sales, um, you forego one sense of discoverability in the massive platform of Amazon readers. But what you can then do is you can start to use some of these tools like giving conversion data back to Facebook so they can use that to close the loop and say, okay, well, we send the ad to all these people and these 5 people bought this week. What can we tell about those people to find more of those people, right? And the machine will do that so much better than we will ever be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah, because in their perfect world, they send you just the right advertising. They don't want to swamp you. They want you to just get the stuff that you need to know. And if you're an avid Mill sci-fi reader, then they want to get you Craig Martell stuff, right? And then if they, and then send you more, right? But so one of the things we should really hit on, you mentioned it earlier in kind of the bumping into the working capital issues. This is, working capital issues are an issue for any business, right? This is what kills more businesses than anything else in the history of business killing is they run out of money, right? Like, mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, for sure. And for any folks, Craig mentioned theory of constraints. We have an episode that we did on that about a year ago that gets into that as a strategy. It's used mainly in manufacturing to improve your manufacturing processes, but it's just as applicable to any process where there can be um, constraints or bottlenecks to how you make things. And to your point, I mean, you're playing with some larger numbers, but the same things are the issue. And when I would talk to authors at the 20 Books conference, a lot of them came to me and like, well, what about setting up a business? What about my LLC? And I'd be like, well, where you're at in your career, um, your money needs to go into a book cover and editing, nothing else, right? Like you need to make a stellar product to send out into the marketplace and find your audience. Then you got a product to sell, you've got a business. And even, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Yeah, and I think I had two people come to me with this where it's like, hey, um, you know, my plan is I've got enough money for books one and two, and then I expect to have I'm going to get those launched, and then I'll have the money to do the cover and editing for book three, and the best business advice I could think to give them is that you need to rethink that plan, right? Like that's not a viable plan for a good launch because if you're out promoting this as a 3 book series, um, and book three is contingent on funding from the first 2 books, you've got a fatal flaw that if you don't get that money, you're going to not deliver on your brand promise of a 3 book series. So back up and make sure that you've got that money, right? And then you start to think about it, like then it starts to relieve some pressure because it's like, well, the reality is that it's going to take me 6-8 months to save up, let's say $4,000 to do that work. Now I've got more time to get that writing done, right? I'm not trying to like jam all those words in 90 days so that I can launch quicker. And you start to get a more realistic plan. And, a lot of folks that I saw fail in the last year, it's just because of that. They may have had the capacity to write a book a month, but they never had the cash to put out a book a month. Yeah. Right. So, yep, yep. Mm. 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 Sure. Oh, and I think there's two things you made me think about. One is the whole idea of working with other writers. I've from my perspective, what I've seen is that works real well for some people, and for other people it doesn't. And I know I can think of a specific instance, not that this makes it a rule, but two very successful writers writing on their own, when they work together, the series tanked, right? And there's more than one of those that I know of that, and that's just because when they're creating on their own, they were able to do something pretty spectacular. Both of those people came into that project like, this is exciting. I want to work with this guy. He's kind of a hero of mine. We see things alike. But once they start doing a different process, some of that secret sauce is lost, and the readers sniff it out, and they're like, not my book. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, and I've from the folks that I've talked to that are doing it, um, the number of folks that they've fired or walked away from or dropped, it's like 30 times the number of deals they have going. It's really crazy how many frogs they have to kiss. And the better you are, if you are looking at that from what I've observed, the faster that you can um, get to that point and figure that out, the better you're going to be. Because, in fact, I was talking to one person, and they've got basically like a process that they throw these collaborators into first off, and it is only there just to vet them to see if they have the similar work ethic. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. So we're coming up on our time here. What other kind of tidbits do you have as far as planning and things that maybe you know this year that you didn't know 12 months ago? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of following on the same suit, what I would say is for any folks that are thinking that tax management means spending a lot of money at the end of the year, um, I, that's not a good idea. That the first thing you should do is figure out in the process of getting ready for 2019 how much money you think you're going to need for working capital for 2019, and make sure that you leave that money in the business, right? So yeah, it's income and you're gonna pay taxes on that, but then you're done paying taxes, and those retained earnings are there as working capital to make more money, right? If you're in your case, you're saying you're getting a 50% return on your money. Why wouldn't you want to leave $50,000 there versus in your personal savings account, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, sure, sure. Right. And to that point, there's kind of this old school mentality that I hear some folks talk about when you're running a business on a cash basis. Is like, well, if I spend it in 2018, I won't have to pay the taxes on it. And I know have this revenue that's going to drop from this year because my 60-day delay on revenues into 2019. It's like, don't play that game. Eventually it all washes out. If you do have a chunk of money that you're trying to figure out what to do and you want to be the most tax efficient, set up a 401k or a SEP and move the money into there, right? The government has set up the IRS not just to collect money, but as behavior modification, right? And Hmm. Hmm. No. Yeah, yeah. And that's, hopefully we're helping folks understand that this isn't just like go around and spend money on silly stuff. Is, you know, it, if you don't have um, the money to do it, like you're a unique situation because of your career path. You were able to kind of set out a year of your life and have the working capital to do that. For most folks, it's they're doing this in a side, as a side hustle to their main job. You know, save your money, understand how much you're going to save. Like it's not hard. Like you can do it. This entire plan can be on a post-it note. Okay, like it could be editing. It can be your book covers, and then go and save that money and invest that in this business. Even though you haven't set it up as a different structure, you're treating it like a business on that post-it note, and then you're going to know what your return is. Okay. Great thing about books is once they're out there, they continue to make money. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's it. Like if let's say at the end of the year, after you've done your expenses, you've got a $10,000 profit, right? If you're trying to figure out what to do with that money, um, if your business is delivering the kind of return that we're talking about, and the great threshold is this: if your business isn't doing better than the S&P 500 return, right? Now you've got a real easy binary decision. If it's better, leave the money in the business. If it's not, it should go into your 401k or SEP where it's now at that return rate and it's tax deferred. It's going to do better. And so now that gives you a threshold for your business. Your books, the money, the profits you make from what you invest in book selling should be better than what you can get in the marketplace. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, and this is something I talked about at 20 books, if you're funding yourself with your credit cards, which we know a lot of people are doing, it's not the S&P 500 return anymore. It's your APR on the credit card. You have to beat that, right? So if it's a 19% credit card, then when every dollar you're using off of that debt better be returning at least 19%, just to break even. Yeah. So, any parting words? Yep. Uh, Amen. All right. Well, that's it. Well, let's wrap it up. And it's okay. Hmm. That's for sure. I mean, regardless of whatever economic headwinds there are, there's never been an opportunity where the playing field's been so level that anybody can get a book published. Now, the thing you have to understand is that the market will prevail, and what I mean by that is that if you write a crappy book, it's not going to sell. Okay. Mm, mm. All right, man. Well, it's great talking to you, and I hope that 2019 part of your plan is that we do more of these. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and all. Yeah. Well, I usually do. They're usually pretty happy with what I do. The other thing is Lisa Gardina, who I work with, who's doing these high net worth authors, their books. She's going to be there, so she'll just be hanging. She, yeah, she's not big for being on stage, but she one on one, she's awesome, and she's this is who to name drop like I like to do with her. She was doing Oprah's books, right? Like Oprah trusted her. Yeah, she's a CPA, and she was originally with Price Waterhouse, and then she left there. She was with Oprah's. She ran Oprah's family office for 12 years, basically until Oprah left Chicago. Yeah, so. Yeah, and like Matt came out. He flew out just for that show, right? Like, yeah. So, and I know he helped a bunch of people. So, anyhow, let's wrap it up there. We probably won't have another one of these before the end of the year. So, happy holidays and happy New Year, and 2019. Well, yep, there it is. All right. Talk to you later. All right.